Picks is back, and we are post Canelo Charlo, and we're here to rest on our laurels.
Hey,
How you doing,
yeah, very
ASP?
happy our dog watch hit for us, Mario Barrios. And really, we talked a little bit about this, how it might play out in the broadcast, and it really did, Miguel. Uh, Ugas showed his age. He's 37 or older, as we talked about with the Cubans. Barrios is that dog that we thought he was, um, because Ugas moves forward. Well, so does Barrios, and he's younger and he's strong. Neither one great knockout punchers, but no quit in Barrios, and he was punching 2 to 3 times the output, both attempts and connections, and clearly won the fight quite easily. And so we were happy for that. That was our plus 210 dog watch. Had a lot of folks following us on that. Shout out to Prop Gurus Discord, a couple of Glizzy Bangers Discord, folks on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Sharps app. We've got a lot of good folks that we enjoy making these bets with and for. So Mario Barrios came through for us big. So that was a great one. Canelo handled his business. As we said, minus 400 on the money line, nothing to bet there. Decision was minus 126. If you put it in a parlay, made sense. But that one kind of played out how you and I thought it would as well. Was never really in danger in that fight. Never really. I mean, maybe Charlo won a round or two. Didn't look as good as Ryder. Ryder came to fight. I mean, let's say that. Maybe won about the same number of rounds, Miguel. But Ryder really came to fight. And again, when you look back on folks' records, we talk about this. Why didn't we pick Yordenis Ugas? Well, when we look back on his record, it didn't age as well. A lot of the guys that he beat, your Thomas Delormes and whatnot, didn't do a whole lot more after Ugas beat them. But a guy like John Ryder, his record is standing the test of time pretty well. And how he fared against Canelo, and then to have Charlo go in there like that. And look, I don't think a lot of Charlo fans think Ryder would have a chance against Charlo. But I think after what we just saw, I'd pick Ryder against Jermell Chatrlo myself. That's where I'd place my money.
It fascinates. It's a great conversation to have there. It fascinates me because when we talked about Ryder in the build up to the Canelo fight, one of the things I lauded was that the British system is very competitive, especially at that weight class, especially at the time that he was coming up, and his record showed it. He had fought a lot of guys that had made a little noise on the world level and stuff. Billy Joe Saunders guys, and that era was a great era for British boxing. And now we're looking at the PBC roster, and the Charlos were at the top of that PBC roster, and a lot of the guys on there are hardworking, tough guys that have had trouble separating cream of the crop guys. You know what I mean? It's very fair in there. And the Charlos were the best in there, but, I don't think, like you said, Ryder came to fight, and I think Charlo didn't have a B plan. If you couldn't outbox him, what are you going to do? And, I've talked to world champion boxers about Canelo's boxing, and they say that, his movement and things like that that he's got that as well. And to go in there, good luck trying to outbox him. He doesn't do anything else but this, you know what I mean? So it's like, when you start negating Charlo's weapons, then all of a sudden he doesn't have as many answers.
Mm-hmm. And then it's survival, I really feel like, after he got knocked down, especially, and realized, at that point I felt like it was survival. I had sort of at the last second after hitting the Mario Barrios, and then someone said, what about the Lubin fight? Well, detour for just a second, what about the Lubin fight? And I said, well, I wouldn't have it on a parlay because I don't know how that's going to go. Ramos is the favorite, but Lubin's always a live dog, so leave that one alone. Don't put it on a parlay. And he said, well, Lubin is a plus 230. If you think it's a toss-up, same thing I've been preaching about Mario Barrios. And I said, you know what? Okay, fine, yes. we're going to take a small amount of our Mario Barrios profit and put it on Lubin, because as you say, he's got a chance here, and he's a plus 260 or something. I don't quite 230, 260. Anyhow, the fight's over in live. Lubin is a plus 1100. Miguel, he got thrashed. We thought he'd lost. I thought maybe a draw, honestly, a draw or Ramos. So they said 117, 111. That's Ramos for sure. Everybody knew it. Lubin knew it. For the winner, Erickson Lubin. Even Lubin's face, he was like, wait, what? And then they're like, yeah, Erickson Lubin. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, I had him the whole time. You're right. You're right, Lubin. But that was one of those where the decision was wrong and it went for us. So when in weeks past, it's been the other way. Just keep in mind, this will happen. Boxing is weird sometimes. What judges like, if they like pressure, how much they rate a jab versus a power punch, you don't know sometimes. So, but that happened in that fight. Then we're coming in to the Canelo fight, and we've got profit on profit on profit. Maybe Canelo can get the knockout. We put a little bit on that, barely any. So he got knocked down. It looked pretty good, but after that he quit fighting. And I think, I'm not saying it wasn't necessarily smart. If Charlo, as you said, what is plan B? You're not going to outbox Canelo, so now you're going to knock him out? No. And that would have been the only choices to open up, and of course then your defense is broke down, and he probably would have got knocked out. So I think, what did he have left but survival?
Yep. You know, like I said, the Charlos, now the big question is his brother able to clean up his act off the, outside the ring? And once he does that, because he's been operating a little bit bigger level, can he impose his style on Canelo? And they're similar enough that, I would say he'll open up a big underdog. But, look for that fight maybe next year, because that would benefit the money package. And this was a setup fight. And that's what, we mentioned that Charlo should, use that as motivation for this fight, to try to not be in the shadow of his brother, not be a setup for his brother. But that's what it's become, especially on the Canelo. Canelo take another undefeated guy, especially if that's about what he's going to bring. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yep. Not a bad night of boxing overall. And real good for those that were following us. The show, again, we only called the dog watch at the plus 210. We were very happy that one hit. And we shared a little bit more along the way. Follow us along.
Just to comment too, Erickson Lubin, he's one of those guys on the PBC roster. I give credit, or I don't even know if the PBC still exists compared to when they started. But
and Showtime is done now. Let's not. You bring that up. You might not realize you brought that up, but you just brought that up. If you follow guys like Rick Glasser and whatnot, he mentioned he'd been calling it for about a year now, and then he said, Showtime Boxing won't make it to 2024, and they're done. They're not. I think they're going to close down all their sports. They'd already sort of been absorbed into Paramount or Peacock, one of the two. Paramount, I think. Paramount. But yeah, they're done. So where is PBC going to be shown? They no longer have. They said they may do pay-per-view only, Showtime pay-per-view only, but there's no sort of Tuesday night or Friday night fights to sort of build the following anymore. How do you bring your guys up if you only have pay-per-views? What's going to happen to PBC? That's a whole nother that's a whole nother episode, I think. Maybe we should schedule it.
The only thing I wanted to point out there is like, I give them credit in terms of over the last 5 years or so, a guy like Lubin is getting another chance. You know what I mean? The guy in here, you can blame the judges or whatever's going on, but they don't just write off people. A lot of guys have come back. Julian Jackson, the Charlo brothers are at the top of that, but it's a very competitive division. Tony Harrison, got a taste of both of the Charlos, and the fact that they made those fights and we're creating opportunities for that level of fighter, the A guys, not the A+ guys, has a position, and it'll be sad to see it, if it gets affected, but that's where you get, right now, I think that Canelo should look at the Charlo brother, the undefeated brother, as an opponent for next year. Probably do a fight in between. Go made in against somebody else, do something, and then bring him back in, this time frame next year.
And retire. And remember my crazy prop bet. He retires. He doesn't retire before him and Usyk do a super fight. I know that doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. Only because they both said they want to. And Usyk, they both said it'd be more like an exhibition, and they wouldn't come out and try and hurt each other. That always changes when you get smacked up a couple times and you get tired of it, I would think. And you probably start landing as hard as you think the other guy's throwing. And then he lands as hard as he thinks you're throwing. And it's going to be a real fight where they try and take it a little easy. We'll see how that happens. But that's my stupid prediction. I really see it happening only because they both want to. And there's buckets of money to be had. And the truest nickname this sport has ever had is prize fighting.
And I'll tell you this, even though it'll be an exhibition and, people will have their own slants on it, how much more compelling to a real fan is Canelo Usyk compared to Jake Paul against any,
Right.
Can you imagine this? I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I have absolutely no problem with this, and that's a good segue into Ngannou and Tyson Fury.
And Tyson Fury, yeah. The odds on that, let's point out, are not on FanDuel. They're not sanctioning it, as a full. It's not a title fight and whatnot. So those odds are not on FanDuel. You can find the odds. They're about minus 1,000 for Tyson Fury, to minus 1,350 for Tyson Fury. And that puts Ngannou in the range of about a plus 600 to a plus 700. So, wide odds, I'm not sure they're wide enough. I've seen some sparring footage. Yes, Ngannou can punch. No, I don't believe he can set it up. I don't believe he can find the path at which he can land that power. And definitely not repeatedly. And I don't really believe one punch takes Tyson out. So at any rate, we talked about this before. Take Tyson if you can find odds that are minus 500. I wish we could.
Yeah, it started out around that level when they announced the fight, and they've gone only in one direction. Now, let me tell you this. If you watch the build-up to this fight, it's been very interesting. It's in Saudi Arabia, and there's all kinds of, overlapping subjects there. But if you focus, Tyson Fury has been carrying the rhetoric. Ngannou's there, businessman, giving it his all. You have no doubt that Ngannou's going to try, but he's low key. I'm going to give Ngannou a little suggestion here, and it's a shame that he doesn't listen, but he should say, let's do an open-ended match with no time limit. In other words, let's say, call it a 45-round fight like they used to do in 1910. And you'll see Tyson Fury will change his tune immediately.
Yeah.
As a big man, if he gets tired, he'll get uncoordinated quicker.
Right.
And the fact is, at this point, 15 rounds isn't a challenge to some of these guys. He's already learned to play 15 rounds. But what if there was let's do this to the end?
Yeah.
And nobody will listen to Ngannou, but Ngannou could make some noise that way because it would change the dynamic of the fight. And I would even change the odds if Ngannou, especially Ngannou knows how to fight. He's being trained by Tyson to land his shot.
Mike Tyson, to be clear. You're
not going to download,
Yeah.
Mike Tyson's entire career, in a couple of months and stuff, but it doesn't hurt.
Nope.
It doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? And I give him, he knows he has to land one big punch.
Yeah.
And the way you can set these things up, let's say we're just going to do this until somebody's done.
Yeah.
They're going to earn enough
exhibition
money
format.
that you deserve that. But at this point,
then you've got, Ngannou's power really comes into play. I don't know that they'll.
At this point, all Fury has to do is last 15 rounds.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. And let's for those of you that just heard us mention Mike Tyson and Tyson Fury, yes, let's go through it. It's very rudimentary, but some folks don't know. Yes, John Fury, former Gypsy King and professional boxer with a less than stellar record, 8-4, I believe, named his son after Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is now fighting Ngannou, and Francis Ngannou is being trained by Mike Tyson. And to go a little step further down the implausible 45 rounds, also implausible, John Fury has offered to fight Mike Tyson on the undercard of the Ngannou and Tyson Fury fight. He's also offered to fight a list of 4 or 5 guys, including it was Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, I believe Roy Jones Jr., I think a couple of others that he said, I think any of these would be interesting.
Let's go, champ. How about Shannon Brady?
Funny enough, he said, I've been beat up in front of less people before. I may as well be beat up in front of a lot of people. I was like, okay, he's realistic, he's realistic. 8-4, not a great boxer.
I'm all for that fight too. Like that's a much better idea than, like I said, this trash of non-boxers crossing over and disrespecting, what that been through.
George Foreman was the other one, but of course George is in his 60s now. So
George is a little past his prime, I think.
Yeah.
But that's good stuff. Look, Tyson Fury and I saw a big Joe Rogan clip that he was calling him the best heavyweight ever. And again, I would present to you that when those guys like a John L. Sullivan, you may think, oh no, he's too rudimentary and stuff. But you're talking about a guy who was preparing for 75-round fights. You know what I mean? So it's like the first there are fights, for example, Ad Walgast against Battling Nelson for the lightweight championship. The tide turns in round 25.
Right.
We don't even there's no conception of that. And guys like Mayweather and to a certain extent Fury abuse of this limit. Because now there's a limit to the time, so now it's about output and about dancing and winning over the judges. But if it really came down to it, it would change a little bit of, and I think it would make Ngannou, just the odds would be close.
Oh, the odds would be a lot closer, You're talking about some legal version of a ring of death. get in there until only one of you walks out, basically. Gosh, can you imagine the head trauma some of these early pugilists must have faced after multiple 25, 35, 40 round fights? I mean, you get 10 fights in and you fought the number of rounds with thin gloves, might I add, that guys now don't fight over a 20-year period.
And to a certain extent, it's good that we've progressed beyond that. And I mentioned Ad Walgast and Battling Nelson. Ad Walgast spent the last 25 years of his life in a mental institution, with the doctors telling him your fight's next week, so he would just shadow box and stay quiet. Mm-hmm. So you don't when Mayweather says,
it's hard to advocate for those. We don't truly advocate for that style anymore. It's just a thought process to say, look, Ngannou could have a chance if Tyson couldn't box around
should be offended. Mayweather should be offended if my expectation of a fighter is to wind up that way.
Right.
So I have no problem with the evolution of the sport to where it's gotten that way.
Correct. We have to do that.
But I do think that there is, especially in the modern era, like I said, you can wind up at the end of 15 rounds with a fight with both guys kind of breathing hard.
So here's what it is, Miguel. Here's what it comes down to. We can't sanction it. We can't sanction what we'd like to see because overall it's not good for the health of people. But what we really want is we want Ngannou and Fury to basically do the end of like Rocky IV and just fight in the street. and just really see what it's like when two men just go at it until one of them's asleep, you know.
Yeah,
But
I think it's interesting because it is what it is. Tyson Fury is a superior everything at this point. He's the best boxer right now at the heavyweight level, and he's going up against a novice, and there's no escaping that. You know,
and the odds really show that, thankfully. So hey, look, we're gonna enjoy the fight. There's probably not much to bet there, folks. If you wanted to get into some knockout, prop bets or something, that's one thing. But there's nothing there that I would suggest having on much of a parlay. I don't see where Tyson Fury at minus 1,000 is going to help, anybody's 3 or 4 leg parlay. So this is probably one we're just going to watch as it does get closer. We will, maybe take a look again and see if there's some undercard stuff, I guess. What date is that fight again, Miguel? I'm sorry. Do you have that off the top of your head?
I don't have it on the top here. I can look, but it's at the end of October. I think it's the last weekend of October. It might even be.
There we go. So maybe something will pop up. We will keep you up to date. We're going to hit UFC. I guess let me segue into what boxing we're going to keep you up to date on. Quick overview. The nice thing is, as you've noticed, we didn't have a lot for about a month. We're getting into some now. Even this Saturday, we may pull a show together for the Lee Wood Josh Warrington fight. You get into October 14th. It's not competitive, but I want to see Keyshawn Davis. Tim Tszyu fighting Brian Mendoza is a bit of a competitive fight. Moving on, October 21st is loaded. Jack Catterall, Alex Rosa, Joshua Boazzi, Amanda Serrano on the 27th of October. Joe Cordina fighting in late October. Getting on to November, Emmanuel Navarrete. Shakur Stevenson is fighting De Los Santos. And the rematch between Chantel Cameron and Katie Taylor is November 25th. Rounding out the schedule for the year, currently on FanDuel, Robeisy Ramirez fights December 9th, Rafael Espinoza. And this one I'm really excited about. December 16th, Jesse Bam Rodriguez and Sonny Edwards. Rodriguez a minus 176. Sonny Edwards a plus 138. Look, Bam Rodriguez, it's right there in the name. The guy can punch. Sonny Edwards wouldn't knock out my grandma. Love you, Sonny. He knows it. He's just not a knockout guy. But I'm going to pick Sonny in this fight. I know we're not until December 16th until we get to it. But I think Sonny's one of the best boxers in the world right now. And there's such light weight classes, people don't pay a lot of attention. But I do hope that this Bam Rodriguez fight with Sonny brings attention to both guys. They're both incredible boxers, completely different styles. I think the sweet science of Sonny keeps himself safe with his defense and scores points upon points, and I think he can pull this out. I mean, that's an early upset call, a dog pick, not until December 16th. But that's a quick look at boxing for the rest of the year. We're going to have some over the next couple of months.
One thing I want to ask you about there is, and it's controversial because we just talked about Ngannou and Fury. Fury announced he's fighting Usyk too.
Oh, that's right. We can't skip over that. That's apparently a signed fight. Did they sign that before the Ngannou fight? I think it motivated Fury to sign it because he wants to generate eyes on both fights. I think people are going to want to watch the Ngannou fight. What if Fury signed for Usyk like he should have done last year, but now Ngannou knocks him out? Brings a little bit more intrigue, a little bit more eyes to what is basically an exhibition. I mean, it's billed as a fight, but not a title fight, right? That is the thing. Fury can't lose his titles, even if he loses to Ngannou. So they should have changed the Usyk fight on paper. Obviously, if he loses Ngannou, if Ngannou beats Fury, it changes a lot of things in a lot of ways. But he better hope the Usyk fight's already signed and A side's already decided, right?
Everything has to play out, and that's, I guess, what Fury's counting on. Let me tell you a little bit of why it's disrespectful. Fury can knock out Ngannou in the fifth, have played with him the entire fight, or break his hand.
Right.
And then you cannot fight Usyk at the time frame that they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's a little bit weird because I give Fury a lot of credit for his presentation. I think, his nature and everything like that is part of a very sophisticated mind game that he plays. Keep in mind, when he won the title against Klitschko, he showed up. They bought their own water from England. They were like, we're not taking water from the promotion. We bought our own. You know what I mean? It's like just sending that message. They play a very sophisticated mind game. And this one is one I kind of think they gave Ngannou a little bit of, you know, locker room, you know, sticker on the wall kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. It is a little bit of a play. I mean, he's always had that little bit of a wrestling type persona, hasn't he? You know.
Yeah. I have no problem with it, except for Ngannou's the kind of guy that, you know, he's quiet, but I don't get the feeling like Ngannou's missing things. Like Ngannou's in tune with this. You know, this is the moment that, you know, a transcendental moment. Everybody wants something like this, and this guy realizes that. He knows this is his chance, and just why give him that? Why disrespect that? Why not say, yeah, we signed for Usyk in April? But they didn't do that. You know, they didn't do that.
Well, one thing is segued to another very nicely on this recap show. So we went boxing, UFC boxing. We're talking both now, but we're talking Ngannou. Let's do our final segment here on October 21st, UFC fights. We're talking Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa, and we're talking Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. Fairly decent odds on both of these. The favorites are Chimaev minus 400 and Makhachev at minus 350. That puts your other guys at about 250, 285 underdogs. So I know both these fights are really fairly interesting. Which one you want to talk about first, Miguel, and what's to watch out for in this one, October 21st for us?
You know, you've got two Russians. And, you know, world politics aside, what we know is that the Russians, they come heavy to bet. And they back their guys. And this was part of what made Khabib such a big star. You know, when you look at it, Khabib is one of the top 5 followed people on, you know, social media of any UFC star. I'm talking about with McGregor, on the list with McGregor and Ronda. Khabib is there. More than Nate Diaz, more than Nick Diaz. Why is that? Do you think there's a lot of American? No, Khabib is followed by his entire nation.
Right.
And so you've got that effect with Chimaev and Makhachev. Makhachev is sort of like Khabib's, you know, younger brother kind of thing. So he's still trying to define himself. But Chimaev is the one you want to look at here. Chimaev has operated all of his career basically at 170. They've always known he's huge and he's interchangeable. But he's operated at 170. He had a fight, you know, with some weirdness where he failed to make weight at 170 by 8 pounds, and then they remade the match for him in the next weight class for that night. They switched opponents around. This is unheard of in UFC, you know, modern times, you know. So he's a guy that I think they recognize that he brings a nation, like in the betting and along those lines. And I suspect that, you know, when the lawsuit for the UFC plays out and they're talking about, you know, fighters and how much of the pie they're getting, nobody's even going to count the amount of money they make off of when they get all of Ireland betting on Conor, or when they get all of, you know, Chechnya betting on their guys. And Costa's got, you know, Costa looked like a world beater until Adesanya beat him up. And then all of a sudden, you know, he goes on a little bit of a downturn. Costa is big for that weight class, and Chimaev is coming up. So that's going to be one factor. Costa, you know, if Chimaev comes in to just wrestle, it's probable that he'll be able to get his game off and maybe win a boring fight. And that's where the odds come from and stuff, because he does have that efficiency like Khabib to his game, where it's like, you know, there's not a lot of holes there. But Costa's a big dude, and Costa can hit. And if Costa I think realizes, you know, after a couple of losses and stuff, this is a fight where now I'm a guardian. Now I'm a doorman. now on this guy's key to this weight class. You know, he wins now here against me. He goes, you know, that way, and I go this way. If all that sinks in, Costa's a pretty damn good opponent. You know, my original idea for, you know, UFC fans out there, that Chimaev at 185 should probably get Kevin Gastelum. But Gastelum is probably a couple of years removed from being one of those top guys. But I wanted him to have a test. And Costa represents that test for him.
It'll be an interesting fight at plus 285. I mean, Costa's at 285 if he can stay up off the ground or have a decent defense and negate some of the groundwork, land some punches.
You know, Chimaev's a guy who's got, you know, he's a real strong mind game in terms of, like I said, you know, when you're growing up in a war zone, you know, it makes you a little bit different wired, you know what I mean? And you know those guys are not turned on by, like, excess in the, you know, Western style and things like that. They live like they like to live. But, you know, he hasn't been tested. Not like this yet. He's got that, like I said, that safe style where they don't have a lot of holes and stuff. So it's going to be up to Costa to do something. And hopefully he comes in aggressive, you know? But this is a chance, I think, for people to pick up on an ethnic component changing the odds.
Now, I will say, and I wonder how much this plays in, and again, I think we've generated a couple of topics here that we could do other shows on throughout this one, but I will say the Russians do bet a lot. I definitely on that part. Some of Nurmagomedov's fans, and I would assume by extension Chimaev's, are devout Muslims. And when I say some, I mean a lot. And of course, they're not going to bet on the fights. So that's not going to sway the odds in the same way. Now it's going to help their followers, but not necessarily the betting, right?
Let me tell you, and I have a little insight on this.
Okay, break it down.
I'm going to call BS.
Oh, really?
You know,
okay.
Yeah, there's going to have to be some way around it religiously. I don't want to accuse people of not going, you know, going against their religion, but I've been to Abu Dhabi, which is where this fight is.
Okay,
and I've seen chiefs betting amongst themselves.
Well, and now here's the thing. I don't know, and oh my gosh, I'm stepping into an area, but let me say, I don't know, but I have Jewish family, and there are many different levels of orthodoxy when it comes to Judaism, right?
Oh yeah.
They don't all have the curls. They don't. Some wear the yarmulke. Sometimes. Some. It's always never. You know. Beloved family that go to shul in the morning and night on almost every day, but yet still don't partake in some of the other things that other Orthodox folks would, even though they are morning and night going to synagogues, right? So, but I can tell you this: the more Orthodox you are in Judaism, the less you're going to partake in frivolous things like that. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know if betting is against what they're. I'm not even going there. I don't even know. Yeah. But I know betting is against the more Orthodox Muslims. So where are we with that?
If you're in Abu Dhabi and you wander into the UFC,
right.
you might be slanted to bet on it. There might be action.
Here's my thing with that, and I agree with you. I agree with you completely. But the sheik that's making it rain with stacks of dollar bills with two girls in bikinis on, but one on each arm, is probably not the most Orthodox Muslim.
No, they'll avoid the women in public. They'll avoid the women in public. I give them credit. They have some couth. But here's the thing, though, that's interesting here is for Makhachev and Chimaev, who both are Muslims, it's considered a home field advantage to be fighting in Abu Dhabi as well. And that is another reason why I think the odds are, especially in Makhachev, I think Makhachev has the level of game where he'll get by Oliveira a second time. I just feel like Oliveira is already, Oliveira mentioned in public this week where he feels like there's a home court advantage for the other guy in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
the bad idea. Don't say that.
You don't want to go in thinking that, or letting them know you're thinking that way. At least, come
Keep
on.
your mouth shut, but because now you've told everybody that you're not comfortable,
Right.
and everything becomes heightened. He's already sort of lost the fight, Michael.
Yeah, that's good to pay attention to.
Costa's crazy enough that he doesn't give a F.
He doesn't give a shit. So, folks, really listen to what Miguel's been saying here. Miguel is very good at understanding what a fighter has to go to when they travel, whether that's traveling to Japan or Argentina or Saudi, places that Miguel has been and has been with fighters that he is cornered and whatnot. Keep this in mind. The mindset in your environment can desperately change one way or the other. It's like state dependent learning. You sit in the same seat, you take your test in that seat. Some folks are really affected by state dependent learning, and that's clearly the Oliveira, and that's not Paulo Costa. So there we are. That's what you need to take in mind with what Miguel is laying out here for you folks as you place your bets for that. So stay away from Charles and take a look at Paulo as an underdog.
Yeah, if you want to have some fun, Chimaev is not completely proven in my book too. He's got a little bit more of a daunting image than we've actually seen him work in the ring. He's been very efficient and wiped guys out in the ring. But, if Costa's still there in his face in round 3, we're going to find out a little bit.
Stamina and endurance comes into play. And doggedness, toughness, determination, all starts to come into play. So, all right, man. Well, great.
I will feel like he's got that. So, it's going to be an interesting fight. And the last thing I want to mention is, fast forward to November 11th, and you got John Jones and Stipe Miocic, and we'll also be looking at that.
That's right. So, all right, we should be putting some good shows out these next couple of months on into about December 16th so far on the schedule. October's looking like a good one as well. So, looking forward to that, Miguel. Should be seeing a lot of each other. Of course, those of you that don't know, Miguel's over in Costa Rica. I'm in the States in Indiana. So that's how we bring this show to you. And it's always fun. Subscribe, do all the good stuff, spread the word. We appreciate y'all.
Help us out.
Yeah, come on.